you, Chairman sir, for giving me this opportunity to participate in this very important debate. I'm sure all sections of the House are very concerned and disturbed at the state of the economy. It is not a question of the government or the opposition. Today it is a question of the future of our very nation. And it is with a great deal of concern that I rise today to make a few observations. My very good friend Mr. N.K. Singh was very laudatory in his comments about the good effort that the Honorable Finance Minister made to contain the fiscal deficit. So I thought the first thing I will do is just highlight to the Honorable members what really the Finance Minister did to move a slate of hand and really doing something good for the nation. He finally landed up by reducing 60,000 crores in the receipts of his government, which is something we had kept telling the government even at the time of the budget, that you are over-emphasizing on your receipts, you are budgeting more receipts than you will get. It was obvious they could never have met that target when the economy was on a downturn mode, where the growth had fallen so drastically to 5%, sub 5%. So obviously receipts were down 60,000 crores. They claim to have cut the plan expenditure, the expenditure of the government, but what did they do, sir? They cut the plan expenditure by 92,000 crores, but increased the non-plan expenditure by 32,000 crores to show a balanced, revised budget. All in all, what they have done, sir, is they have increased subsidy burden by 67,000 crores. They have reduced expenditure on defense, which is the crying need of the nation to protect our boundaries. We see incursions every day, but they have reduced the defense expenditure by 5,000 crores on revenue account and 10,000 crores by capital account, the need to modernize the armed forces. They have also reduced the grants to the states by 6,000 crores and assistance to states by 17,000 crores. But worst of all, sir, they have reduced the capital expenditure of the government of India by 77,000 crores. So instead of creating assets for the future, instead of creating assets for posterity, they are borrowing, they are increasing deficits, they are living hand to mouth, but using that money only to pay salaries and in financial imprudent expenses, but not investing in the capital infrastructure that this nation needs. And what is that? And further, we have a lot of minority members here who often talk about the injustice meted out to the minorities. My side is often blamed for being anti-minority, sir. But the track record of this government shows that even in minority affairs, they have not spent 1,000 crores which are available in the budget. On tribal affairs, they have not spent 1,000 crores available in the budget. My good friend Mani stood up to defend the government. Of course, we don't know how much he defends, how much he attacks the government. But in Panchayati Raj, which is so dear to him and his late friend, they have not spent 1,300 crores. All in all, this government, over the 9 years they have been in power, have brought down the capital expenditure as a percentage of budget expenditure from 23.1%, which the NDA left behind, to 11.72% last year, sir. So effectively, they have halved the expenditure on capital investments in the country in the 9 years they were in power. And certainly, I am sure my dear friend Mr. Singh will not give them any brownie points for this complete mismanagement of the economy. A lot was said on inflation, sir. I would like to draw the attention of the Honorable Finance Minister to a speech by his predecessor way back in 1947 when India got independence. In 1947, the Finance Minister recognized that inflation cannot be curtailed by monetary policy. He said, the present inflation is not due to further increase of currency, but to a steady fall in the supply of goods. It is so elementary that unless supply side is tackled, inflation will never get controlled. I urge the Finance Minister to focus on the supply side. If at all we are looking to sort out the important problem of inflation. Of course, a lot of members have talked about the world economy I wonder when the Indian economy was doing well, that also must have been because of the world economy, because of the downturn is because of the world recession. Then the upside also must be because of the world doing very well. So I think in effect, the government has decided to acknowledge that they have no role to play in the Indian economy. They are only subservient to whatever happens in the rest of the world. But the fact is to the contrary, sir. The Indian rupee is depreciating against all major currencies, be it the dollar, be it the euro, be it the pound, even the yen, and worst of all, the renminbi, the highest depreciation is against the Chinese renminbi. Even the Chinese renminbi has appreciated against the US dollar by 6%. They can't justify the mismanagement of the economy by just blaming the world for all of this. China, in a similar situation, sir, invested in infrastructure when they gave fiscal stimulus to their economy in the last 3 or 4 years. They did not waste away money to just distribute it for mere vote bank or vote bank politics or just to earn some votes. They in fact strengthened the economy to be prepared for better times to come. We are today in a situation where the world will rebound, but we may not get the benefit of that rebound because we have painted ourselves into a corner where the country cannot in fact anymore invest in the infrastructure needs of the nation. What is the current situation as per Mr. M.K. Singh? He tried to say that the important legislations are not being passed. I would like to remind the House that the very fact is that this government in UPA 1 brought no legislation for reform before the House. In UPA 2, all that they did was, instead of focusing on issues where consensus could be built, instead of focusing on things which could be done outside the House, which were bureaucratic in nature, administrative in nature, governance in nature, they only focus on the contentious issues. If there was the general mood of the nation that multi-brand retail should not be permitted, there was no need to vitiate the atmosphere of the House and spend a whole month or 2 months to do a thing, as my senior colleague said, to pass a legislation which has got them zero FDI. There was no need at all to lose precious time of this House in not allowing a very prestigious law as the Lokpal to be passed in this House, but just dilly-dally and take it years and years, months and months ahead and let down the people on the streets who are hoping for some accountability from this government. Instead, sir, against the reforms that the NDA did, the reforms in insurance, the reforms in banking, the reforms in pension, the reforms in telecom, airport privatization, disinvestment of sick public sector units, power sector reforms, road projects in a massive way, all that this government has left behind or will leave behind as soon as they leave and make way for a better government to come will be a series of scams, and scams in the garb of so-called public good. In the garb of employment, they introduced Manrega. Member after member has spoken about Manrega being withered away rather than creating assets for the nation. You don't pay people for work not done. You pay people for work done. You don't create a country which is institutionalizing poverty. You don't create a country where it is good to be called poor so that the entitlements of the government will take you along. We want an empowered nation. We talk of a superpower. We will only be a superpower when every youth of this country gets good education, gets good health, gets a job, has a working opportunity, lives a life of pride and not a life on doles of this government. In the garb of power, in the garb of providing power for all, by 2012, they gave us the coal scam. If only they had auctioned those coal mines, we could have today got 5 lakh crores into the government treasury and would not have to see the day where government is cutting down the capital expenditure and causing losses to the nation. In the garb of security, they do transactions like Tata Trucks, Augusta Westland. They are scam upon scam of the defense sector. In the garb of giving cheap telephony They do the 2G scam, they do the Antric scam. In the garb of growth, they give us consumption-led growth, but there's no job.
Please conclude.
Again, 60 crore jobs provided by the NDA regime. They provide 26 crore
Now
jobs.
conclude,
They
please.
provide 27 lakh jobs. So every one of their
Please conclude.
actions loses the investor's confidence. And the investor loses confidence. Investor loses confidence not because the legislation is not passed here. One or two legislations more passed are not going to change the face of this nation. But if this government was to get out of its paralysis, was to get out of fighting with each other, was to start taking decisions, was to stop taking retrospective tax amendments, which the investors have completely lost faith when they overturn judicial judgments, if they were to stop smuggling of gold, rather than increasing the taxes on gold, if they were to make the housewife and the young women feel secure in this country, if they were to make investors have confidence that when they invest in India, they will not lose their money in rupee depreciation, then let me assure you, sir, India would not be in such a dire state. Okay. I requested the chair before you came for... No, that you have taken 2-3 minutes more.
Extra 6 minutes.
Sir, 2-3 minutes more. I want to make a couple of suggestions.
Extra 6 minutes.
I want to make a couple of
You didn't
suggestions.
sacrifice your time, but
Sir, the fact is,
everybody wants to talk more.
sir, the fact is this government, in the garb of financing current account deficit, has made claims. The Honorable Prime Minister, the Honorable Finance Minister, they are making claims that they have protected the forex reserves of this country. I feel very sorry that my ministers, that my Honorable Prime Minister are misleading the nation, sir. They have not protected the foreign exchange reserves of this country. I can keep my forex reserves at $280 billion, but keep increasing my debt from 200 to 300, now 390. Another year it will be 400, 490. Is that protecting the forex reserves? Sir, when the NDA left power, the net forex, the reserves versus debt, we were surplus by $1 billion. Today the nation is $100 billion negative on a net foreign external debt. That is what we are leaving behind for the people. I just want to make a couple of quick suggestions.
No, where you are taking extra 7 minutes, please.
If at all the government is serious,
Mr. Payas Goyal,
that they want to if at all the government is serious that they want to solve the problems of the nation, first of all they will have to give bharosa, they will have to give confidence to the world that this is a sincere government, it is an honest government, it is a government which will act and not allow a Pulak Chatterjee committee to take 15 months against the slated 3 months.
Please cooperate. Please.
They have to go with the opposition, with other parties, build a national consensus so that policy making. Now look at what they are playing with food security. In the garb of food security, they are making a fool of the poor. They have to instead address the genuine problems of the people. And lastly, a small submission, sir. I would submit to the Honorable Finance Minister, please acknowledge where you have gone wrong and rectify your mistakes. Okay. Show the world you are not dogmatic. That will separate the boys from the men.
Now, Sri Balchandra Mangekar.